Hey, friends, and welcome to the Genius Way Show. I'm your host, Ben Hummel. And I want to start out with a little idea here today about our topic. And you may have heard about a saying that says something like this: life is a bridge and you need to move on. Or life is a bridge and you don't build your house on a bridge, right? So it's implying that life is a journey. We're moving from one place to another. A bridge is something, going from one point to another point, never meant to be a place to stop, never meant to be a place to create a home. And so if life is described as that, and we're kind of given general, kind of advice not to build our house on a bridge, it's kind of implying that life in, this life that we find ourselves in, where we come here and we all go without exception, everyone comes and everyone goes. You think by now we'd learn a little bit more about not building or not trying to make anything permanent, but that's exactly what we do. Most people every day are trying to make their life into something more solid than it actually is. Life here on this planet, life here in a civilization, I don't know if you've noticed that things keep changing. They keep changing, they keep moving. Everything is in motion, everything moves, and we humans, we try to keep everything kind of in a static place. We want to finally get somewhere so that we can just stop and rest and not strive and not try. But the whole point of all of these teachings and all of the effort into having a personal development journey, a life journey that you're on, a conscious journey, is to be able to rest while you're moving. That paradoxical idea. Let me be at rest. Let me enjoy the movement of this life. Let me enjoy the fact that everything's always moving. Okay. So now we're going to get to the topic today of how to know when it's time to make a change in your life. And for us, making a change is usually a real big deal because of that fact that we're always trying to build our house on the bridge. We're always trying to make something permanent. And it's not a terrible thing, but it's not necessarily possible. If you've seen any kind of construction where a house is left alone by itself for years, nature takes over. From the first day, nature's going to take over and start, you know, invading whatever we built there. And after a while, after 100 years, 200 years, 500 years, we barely even know that the building is there because nature has just kind of consumed it. So everything kind of moves and changes. And so one of the best things we can learn to do is to learn to move with life. And part of that is to learn to recognize in our individual lives when it is time to make a change. And so making that change means I've lived like this under these circumstances, with these people, with this job, with this current mindset. I've lived long enough like this, and it's no longer serving me. It's no longer benefiting me. It's no longer allowing me to move with the natural pace of life. And so there are ways to find out when it's time to make a change by how your life is currently feeling to you, right? So the first thing to notice is the discomfort, the first thing. And sometimes life feels uncomfortable. And one of the ways that we actually do make changes is when life is uncomfortable or painful, when we've had a serious loss, a huge transition in our life, so a breakup. Any of those things can spur us to change. That's kind of changing by force. I lost my home. Now I need to change and figure out where else to move. Or I lost this, and now I have to change and figure something else out. But there's a way before we have those drastic things happen to us to tell whether we are basically in a stagnant place or not. Everybody's always talking about, oh, I feel stuck. how to get unstuck and blah, blah, blah. It's a common state to find yourself in. And why is that? Why do we feel stuck? Because all of life is moving and somehow we're not. We're not moving with it. And yes, you are going to feel stuck, stagnant, and part of your life is going to feel very unnatural as the whole universe is moving and you have stopped. So, one of the questions to ask yourself when you're feeling that discomfort in your life and you're trying to say, is this the time for a change? Is this the time to make some kind of change happen? Is, can you see any way in your current circumstance that you can grow? That's the key here. Can you grow any more in your current circumstance? See, a lot of us live in a way where we keep repeating the same grade over and over and over again. We're in fifth grade forever. And we're not supposed to be in fifth grade forever. We're supposed to go from fifth to sixth and so on. It goes like that. Same thing with the basic elements of our life. We're supposed to be able to kind of keep moving as we grow, age, get wiser, have life experiences, gain wisdom. All of that stuff is kind of moving us along, regardless of whatever you think about the afterlife, it doesn't matter. Life is always moving here on earth in this present form. It's moving, you can't stop it. And if we have internally stopped, it feels bad. So it's important, look for the growth. Can you still grow in this current situation that you find yourself in? Can you grow? And if you can be honest about that, it's what I call a growth edge. If you can be honest about, this is exactly where I need to make a change, right at that edge of how far I've grown, I need to make a change so that I can go a little bit further, so I can be in pace with life. And so if you can see that growth edge, and in your current circumstance, you can't do anything about it. If that part has been stagnant, then it's time to make a change. It is definitely time to change something, because we always need to be able to see the next spot where we can grow towards, grow past, enter a new kind of state of awareness for ourselves. And again, join in with the march of life, with how everything else moves. And let me just say, this doesn't stop when you're 40, 50, 60. This goes all the way. We never stop growing. We never stop needing that opportunity to move past our current level of awareness, our current ideas, our current concept of things. If you just look at technology. If you look at the technology today and you showed it to somebody even like 30 years ago, 50 years ago, let alone 100 years ago, you give somebody a cell phone 100 years ago, they would think that you're like a magician. They wouldn't understand it. Then the first thing they would do would be to demonize it and say that you're some kind of like devil worshiper or something. And why? Because they don't understand it. They are not ready to accept it. We kind of go in increments. And through time, with even just this one little segment of technology, we've learned how basically these things work and can accept them. Okay? So even that moves, it grows. Our understanding of the universe grows. 500 years ago, we knew that the sun revolved around the earth until Galileo came along. Okay? Now we know, no, that's not true. So inherent in our life experience, there are so many things that we can't know until the next thing happens. We can't know until that next change. And so part of our duty as a human being is to be able to embrace change and to know what it feels like when a change is being called for from us. So the best kind of change is the one that you're willing to move into through listening to yourself, through feeling that stagnation, and the ability to, or the willingness to move into a change because you are innately feeling, okay, something has stagnated in me, and it's not natural. To be stagnant as a human being is not natural. I'm just going to say that. And that unnaturalness shows up as discomfort, dissatisfaction. Okay? So if you're feeling discomfort or dissatisfaction with your life, it's important for you to know it may be time to change something. And what you're going to change, I don't know. You'll have to find out. It could be the relationship you're in. It could be your job. It could be that you're not expressing your genius enough. It could be lots of things. Your diet, your physical health, who knows? Certainly your mental health, And so these things, knowing that you're needing to make a change and recognizing that need to change something is the foundation of kind of a healthy self-care, being at pace with life situation. So what I want to do here, I found a nice video to illustrate this for you. This is kind of funny, but really, really poignant. And this is about a guy who has been kind of literally, deliberately not changing, maybe out of fear, maybe out of not knowing that they need to make a change. And this is a moment when this person decides, okay, I'm going to change all the stuff that I've been deliberately not changing. I'm going to say what I have been deliberately not saying, and I'm going to move in a way that I haven't moved before. So take a look at this, and you'll see each other on the other side with more on this topic.
No, you were wrong. He was wrong. Who said that? I didn't say that. If I said that, I would have been wrong. I would have been wrong. Isn't that right, Harry? I'm not arguing that with you. I'm not arguing that with you. Come. I am not arguing that with you. Listen, let me call you back. I got something, okay? Don't say anything until we finish our conversation, right? Joe. Yeah. You have lunch 3 hours. Yeah, Bob.
Where's my friend? Where is my friend? Mr. Valtteri. Mr. Valtteri. Hello?
This is company property, mister. Joe, don't touch that! What are you doing? I'm opening or closing the main drain. Shouldn't be touching it, Joe.
Nothing happened. You know how long I've been wondering what would happen if I did that?
What's the matter with you?
Brain cloud.
What?
Oh, never mind. Listen, Mr. Valtteri. Frank. I quit.
You mean today?
That's right.
That's great. Don't come looking for a reference from me.
Okay, I won't. Robinson Crusoe.
Now, you blew this job.
Romeo and Juliet. The Odyssey.
You blew this job.
Ukulele. Been working here 4.5 years. Work I did I probably could have done in 5 or 6 months. At least 4 years left over. 4 years. If I had them now, like gold in my hand. Here. This is for you. Goodbye, Edie.
You're going?
If you're leaving, leave. You'll get your check. And I promise you, you'll be easy to replace.
I should say something.
What are you muttering?
This life, what a joke. This situation, this room.
Joe, maybe you should just go.
You look terrible, Mr. Waturi. You look like a bag of shit stuffed in a cheap suit. Not that anybody could look good under these zombie lights. I can feel them sucking the juice out of my eyeball. Suck. $300 a week. That's the news. For $300 a week, I've lived in this sink, this used rubber.
Watch it, mister. There's a woman here.
Don't you think I know that, Frank? Don't you think I am aware that there is a woman here? I can smell her like a flower. I can taste her like sugar on my tongue. When I'm 20 feet away, I can hear the fabric of her dress when she moves in her chair. Not that I've done anything about it. I've gone all day. Every day. Not doing, not saying, not taking the chance for $300 a week. And Frank, the coffee, it stinks. It tastes like arsenic. These lights give me a headache. If they don't give you a headache, you must be dead. So let's arrange the funeral.
You better get out of here. I'm telling you.
You're not telling me nothing.
I'm telling you. Why?
I ask myself, why have I put up with you? I can't imagine. But I know. It's fear, yellow freaking fear. I've been too chicken shit afraid to live my life, so I sold it to you for $300 freaking dollars. Oh, wait! You are lucky I don't kill you. You're lucky I don't rip your freaking throat out. But I'm not going to. Maybe you're not so lucky at that. Because I'm going to leave you here, Mr. Waturi. What could be worse than that? Dee Dee,
Yeah.
how about dinner tonight?
Yeah, okay.
So, have you ever related to that character, Joe? Have you found yourself in a position where you're like, what am I doing here? Why am I still doing this same thing? Since it's clearly not working for me. And so, if you've ever seen yourself in that situation before, you might want to take a look at how did you get out of it? Were you forced out of it? Did life finally get to a point and says, okay, I'm kicking you out because you're not making this choice yourself? Or did you actually choose something? So it's important to see, that time that Joe wasted. He was talking about 3 years. It's like that 3 years is not coming back. And we're all doing that. We're all spending 3 years or 6 years or 20 years on something that most likely is not serving us and it's not making us happy. We are not happy or fulfilled with it. And, when you think about the idea of happiness in terms of what you're doing with your life circumstances, happiness is not just something that, you're kind of entitled to. It's not that. Happiness is a state of being that is kind of set out there as a flag for I'm living my life correctly. Whatever I'm doing, whatever my circumstances, whatever my challenges, I'm making the best out of it and I'm growing, I'm moving, and I am continuing to evolve and develop, right? And so one thing that you got to look at here in talking about this subject, when to make a change. How do you know it's time to make a change? You got to see if there's something in your life that you're settling for that you don't need to be settling for. And a lot of the times, the reason that people settle for things is, number one, they don't think anything else is coming. Number two, making the decision to change it seems really scary, and it seems like there's going to be less even of the happiness if you decide to change something than what you're kind of just dealing with and the status quo. So if you remember that, this life is a bridge and we're supposed to be moving across it, it can help you to be more comfortable with making the change yourself instead of being forced out of it by something really devastating, like, an illness, a breakup, blah, 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 that kind of thing. So how do you know if you're settling for something? It's a really good question. So there's a fear of making a change that's directly related to the fear of loss. And that fear of loss is basically saying, hey, I built a little apartment here on the bridge, and I want to stay here. But meanwhile, the roof is falling in, the waves are coming in from, from the water from down beneath. It's not working very well, but I still have an apartment. I still have a little place on the bridge. And meanwhile, we're supposed to keep going further, across the bridge and further down the road. And life is trying to cooperate with us and help us to keep moving across this bridge. And so when we come from that place of the fear of loss, when the fear of loss becomes more important than making a healthy change, then we know we're in that stuck place. We know we're in that stagnant place. And so how can you tell whether you're in that place of, I'm afraid to make a change and I'm settling for something, versus, hey, I'm doing the best I can right here? How do you know the difference? Well, when you're just doing the best you can, you're making the best out of a bad situation, the kind of like disturbing thing is thrust upon you, and you have a situation where you're like, okay, there's nobody else here. I've got to deal with this situation, and I've got to do the best I can. But opposed to that is when you are deciding not to choose to change something that needs to be changed. That's completely different. That's when life is kind of okay, and there's something that's just not working. So let's say you have a relationship and you guys have grown in two different directions, and it's just not there anymore. And it's not really good for either of you, but you've got this together, and you've got this, you've got kids, and you've got a house, and you've got all these things, but the quality of your life is pretty low. And so, yeah, it's a complicated thing, but there is a way to kind of move out of it when you get past the fear of choosing. When we don't choose, it's important to see that that's a choice too. When we don't choose, so there's a fear of choosing, basically, to keep moving across the bridge and to move out of that little place you built on the bridge. There's a fear of choosing that. And so the difference between settling for something and making the best out of what you've got, we all have to do that every day. We have to make the best out of whatever situation we've been given. But settling for something means, I've stopped moving. There's more for me, but I'm afraid to make the choice because then I'm going to lose something. I'm afraid I'm going to lose something. And that's always there when that desire or that feeling of, I might need to change my life, shows up. There's always that fear that I'm going to lose what I already have. And the thing is, we're going to lose it anyway. One way or another, every day you're losing, a day off of your life. I hate to sound morbid, but everything is moving. And so this whole show today is about how to move with life. And part of that is how to make a change when it's necessary. When you feel certain ways and realize that feeling is indicating, I need to change something in my life. Okay? So we can't always wait for rock bottom to make a change. You don't have to wait that long. You just have to kind of see, what it feels like, and learn, when I get this certain feeling, it's time to move. It's time to change. It's time to bring something new into my life. And that means that you might have to use different qualities than you normally would have. Like, for instance, the habit of grabbing onto something and holding it really tight so it doesn't go away, and grabbing it, holding it really tight so it doesn't change, doesn't really work. That's kind of a one direction thing. There's this story, a technique of how to catch a monkey. And what they do in certain countries to catch monkeys is they have like a clay pot with a very small neck in the top, very small hole, just enough for the monkey to get his hand through. And when the monkey grabs whatever they put in the whatever kind of fruit or food they put in the pot, grabs it. Then the monkey's got his hand in a fist, and when he tries to pull it out, he can't, and so he's stuck by what he's holding on to. And the way to get the monkey's hand out of there, they try to tap him on the elbow, and he forces him to let go. And of course, they pull him out, but now the monkey is caught, and he doesn't even have his fruit. So that's kind of how we are sometimes. We hold on, and in that position, we're not allowed to move, flow, change, grow, develop. We're not allowed to do any of those things because we're only exercising the holding on part. And holding on to something that you think is solid when all of existence is moving, well, it's just silly. It's just silly. But hold on, we do. And so it's a whole practice to learn how to let go, how to embrace a change, and even how to instigate a change when you need to do that. So, okay, let's take a short commercial break, and then we're going to come back with a guided visualization on how to learn how to invite a change and kind of facilitate a change before even life makes us change. Close your eyes and take a deep breath in, and then deeply exhale. Imagine that you're walking down a path in the woods that you walk on every day. The sunlight's filtering through the leaves. There's a soft breeze blowing as you're walking along this trail just like you have for so many years. As you get to a familiar fork in the trail where you usually take the left path, you remember that for the past several months, you've had to walk through a particularly muddy section of trail that was created by a new spring of water that has recently appeared. You really love taking the left path and have been willing to overlook the mud for a while, but recently it's become more and more difficult to navigate it. As you stop at the fork to think about making a change to your routine, you're faced with a choice to go down the familiar but muddy path or to take a chance and see where the other path leads. What are some of the things you're considering as you ponder this choice? What are the feelings that show up for you as you're making your decision? Which is more compelling for you in this scenario, the familiar or the unknown? Now it's time to choose a path. Which one do you choose? Now think of a scenario in your life that's a metaphor for these two paths. Find something that you've been doing for a long time that isn't satisfying to you anymore, but still haven't changed how you're doing it. What scenario are you thinking of? Now, see a different path you can go down or a change you can make that will alter your experience in this scenario, even if you don't know how it will change. What is this different path? See yourself making this change in your life and notice what happens. Realize that you don't have to settle for something that no longer works for you just because it's been the same for a long time. You can change your life whenever you need to. And now, with this experience fully intact in your awareness, and when you're ready, open your eyes and come back into this room. So, how is that exercise for you? Were you able to see ways that you can facilitate a change in your own life? And were you able to see how it feels when it's time to make a change? That's the whole point here is checking out and being aware in a preventative way of the feeling that tells you it's time to make a change here. It's time to move on. It's time to keep walking across the bridge. And so another way to know when when it's time to make a change and how it feels is to see whether or not you are dreaming of another circumstance or situation. Because, usually when you're happy and content and, feeling really good about your circumstances, it has a lot to do with whether those circumstances are feeding you, like encouraging you, whether they're big enough for you to be expressing yourself and to be kind of, showing up as you are in your life, and whether or not they are inspiring you. And so, if your life doesn't have those qualities, I can imagine that you might be dreaming of a different circumstance. And so, think about that. If you have a dream of something else, a grass is greener thing, or, something else that you're wanting that's just not there, but still that dream is there for it, chances are there's something that's ready to be changed in your life. There's a change that's wanting to be, put in place by you. And at some point, if you never go and put that in place, put that change into effect, life is going to do it for you, and it's not going to be fun. You know what I'm talking about. You've had things happen where, man, if I would have just changed this a year ago or 2 years ago, I could have avoided a lot of pain. So part of this whole thing of knowing when it's time to make a change and how it feels is not about avoiding pain, but it's about like, hey, let me cooperate with life. Let me hear what life is telling me. Let me trust my own experience enough to know that I've stopped somewhere on the bridge and I need to keep moving. So the feeling of stagnancy, the feeling of not, having your dreams met, those are big signs that a change needs to happen. So if you are dreaming of another circumstance, if you are dreaming about a better place, a better time for yourself, check to see if can you get there by what you're currently doing and the way your life currently is. Can you arrive at that dream? And if the answer is no, it's definitely time to make a change. So that's how you can tell. If the answer is no and I can't get there from here to get to my dream, I have to move. I have to change. I have to see this from a different perspective. And you can. If you feel the need for a change, it also means that you have what it takes to make that change. Even though it might be scary, even though you can't see what's coming, even though you have a fear of loss, deliberately making changes when you feel like your life has become too small for you, that's a beautiful knack and it's a beautiful skill to develop. Not only is it beautiful, it's necessary. You know, it's completely necessary to know when it's time for a change. And again, we're not talking about any change, like I'm going to wear a blue shirt instead of a red one. It's a change of how you're doing things, the way that you're perceiving your life, the ideas with which you move forward in your life, you know, the people that you're with, the things that you do. All those things are very, very important to know whether it's time to change them, time to kind of move out of them, time to replace them if something has gotten too small for you. Because bottom line, folks, we are all here to grow. We are here to grow and not be the same thing that we were when we were born, but to grow and become even more of that thing. So in the theory of genius, we are born with a whole blueprint full of things that we're meant to grow in. Just like the seed of an acorn has the oak tree in it, you know, and I know that sounds like a real funny, very used analogy, but it's really true. You are your own acorn, and you're not supposed to die as an acorn. You're supposed to live, grow, develop, and evolve into the oak that you are. You know, and if you like walnut, you're a walnut. Doesn't matter. Within you is a bigger expression of who you are, a more complete expression, an expression that is going to even surprise you because you don't even know everything that's in there. Just like the acorn is surprised that it becomes an oak. It's just like, whoa, how did I go from this to this? We have that exact same phenomenon happening with us. Exact same. And so making these changes is also conducive to bringing out your genius. It's conducive to bringing out the things that are particularly important for you to express in your lifetime. And it's important to help you keep moving across the bridge that is life. So this is like, you know, really, really, really important stuff if you're on your own personal development journey. And I hope these things are really working for you and you kind of really get this. If you're on a personal development path, one thing you have to learn how to do well is to move with the flow of life and to welcome the inevitable changes that create learning and growth. Along with this ability to flow, we also need to be able to tune into ourselves so well that we can feel when it's time to make a life change. To know what it feels like to be stagnant and stuck in a life that has become too small for us gives the motivation to open ourselves to a new way of seeing and behaving. The necessity of creating a healthy life change when you need it will continue for the whole of your lifetime. So it's important to develop this essential skill as soon as you can. Knowing when and how to create healthy changes will guarantee that you will actually live your life instead of postpone it. Well, that's our show for this week. I hope you found some of these tools and skills to be useful to your personal development journey. Remember to visit thegeniusway.com to sign up for a free membership that gives you access to my ever-growing resource library of life skills, guided meditations, and personal development tools. So until next week, stay curious, be kind to yourself, and remember that your genius has something to say.
Thanks for watching The Genius Way Show with Ben Hummel. Make sure to visit thegeniusway.com for the resources you need to help you on your personal life journey. You can contact Ben at ben@thegeniusway.com. And you can follow The Genius Way with Ben Hummel on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Thanks for streaming The Genius Way Show with Ben Hummel.